Hey guys, want to get back into giving a little bit of guide content while making the videos, and today I wanted to talk about one of the heroes that's been overperforming a lot in the current season, and that's Maleficent Manastorm. What this hero power does is it's a passive that whenever you summon a mech, give it +3 attack. What you can do with this essentially just lets you tempo very quickly in the early game. Ideally, you can find 2 early mechs and hold those. And then once you get your quest on turn 3, that will give you a chance to really focus on your quest while already having the tempo on the board. Generally, what I've been doing in the quest meta is I just kind of take whatever quest I think I can reasonably get done the quickest, as long as it's not one of the couple unplayable ones. There's some unplayable quests like the refresh one or the like spell buffing ones, and then whenever it's one that's like add cards to hand, that's also generally just unplayable. But what is really strong with this is you essentially get about, let's just say, 12-ish stats in the early game, and because mechs generally have divine shields, that stats kind of duplicated, so you're getting +3 attack, maybe on 4 minions, and because they're divine shields, you have an extra like 12 damage that you're doing every time in the early game pretty reasonably. And I generally would freeze any of your early like 1-drops to try and get a triple with like an Accordatron like we do in this game, or the Cord Puller. And then generally from there, just play whatever like 4 or 5 drop comp you enable. Really, this is just a really good tempo hero power in the early game. You'll see that we end up going into dragons into this game and end up doing pretty well, just because, well, dragons were, I don't know, the best thing we got some cleaves, and I think our opponents were also playing some kind of questionable boards. But you know, it really just want to kind of show why this hero is actually doing so well. I think looking at the stats, it right now has a 3.77 average placement. Part of that is it just has really good stats. It has a lot of armor as a hero, and because you have that early tempo, you just get to do a lot throughout the game. And again, like the main game right now is you kind of want to just have as strong as a board you can have on going into turn 3, which is generally only going to be your 1-drop. The general rule of thumb I've said is if you are only getting the like play a minion aspect going into turn 3, I generally just tempo it out and save the health. And if it's something like a battle cry or give stats or it generates cards, something like that, then I hold it. But so you get that early tempos with Maleficent. It allows you to be healthier while you're trying to finish your quest. Ideally, it lets you finish your quest even earlier if you get something like kill opponent's minions, or if you have a Cord Puller, if it's your own minions dying. Maleficent's just in a very flexible spot that allows you to go to a couple different spots. I also think that generally any quest that enables you to go to Tavern Tier 7 is going to be very strong, just because the current minion pool is generally pretty weak. I think that this has been one of the weakest seasons in a while, so if you're getting the ability to, get an extra, actual minion, or an actual comp with some actual skilling, you're going to be doing a lot better. The tier 7 quest is generally a little bit hard, but something like this where it's a like greater trinket that gives you a tier 7, or if it's something that like generates you one of the Tavern Tier 7 minions, as long as you have all the enabling for that comp, I generally think that that's going to be pretty strong in the current season. Also looking at it, there's really kind of 2 like tiers to the comps right now. I think right now elementals and murlocs are the only comps that have true like very strong scaling, and if you're not playing one of them, you're going to lose to them eventually. And then followed by that, I'd say the undead comp is just behind them. Jeef right now has it S tier. I think really that's not necessarily true. I think the elementals and murlocs are actually S tier, and I would say the undead is kind of just like the highest A tier, and it's highest by like a significant margin. The only reason I say that is it is like very hard to do like undead and even compete with those other two comps ever. The only thing you do have is that you're generally going to be higher tempo and be a little bit healthier. But if someone gets to the late game, that undead comp I don't think is ever going to actually compete. Now, saying that, I think what I'm kind of getting at in this current game, you'll see that we ended up just doing like a dragon game focused around Obsidian Ravager. And the reason for that, we're in an elemental game. We actually ended up tempoing out all the elemental players, and that was really big for how we were actually able to win, is we were able to just knock them out early, doing a lot of damage to them. But the main thing from this is, I think generally if you're not playing one of those comps, pretty much everything from A through C tier is relatively the same strength. Again, with that one caveat of what I'm calling that undead build, that I'm calling it A tier, Jeef calls it S tier, and maybe that's why it's called S tier, but it is definitely without a doubt the lowest of the S tier comps, if you do have it there. But with that in mind, I think any type of just small scaling comp is always going to at least be a safe top 4. You know, I've had games that are using the new like Eudora Pirate, that 5-drop pirate that gives buffs at the end of turns, and just built around those with like Drakari and Gold Grubber, and that also I find is a reasonable way just to top 4. Just because, again, the minion quality just seems to be so low in this current season that I think it's really just find some type of scaling, try to get it started early, and then after you have scaling, try to figure out how you can transition either to an S tier comp or make it so that you're scaling faster in your current comp. But yeah, that's kind of how I see the current meta. We're getting into the last couple of fights here, and you can see just nothing crazy. We're using just the classic like spell dragons without getting even a ton of spells, and we're going into this like mech proc, I guess like mech summons comp. I actually had another game with this that did really well, and this is another comp that I think Jeef just doesn't really respect or have on his list, but I think this is a reasonable comp that's like a B or C tier comp, this mech summon. And really a lot of it's just how many of the 6-drop are you able to generate. I absolutely love doing it with the lesser trinket that lets you generate like a copy of a minion every turn. But yeah, so don't want to really ramble on too much. We're getting to the end of this video, but just kind of wanted to start doing more of the patch breakdowns. We're getting pretty close to where I guess I'm like starting to run out of my like MMR that's like left over from the previous season. I think it's gonna finish out right below 8k if I were to guess. I did have a couple games where my first was still getting me about like 110 to 120 MMR, but it definitely has been a couple where in a weaker lobby I'm only getting something like 95-ish. So I think it is going to be a little bit of a grind. I didn't do very well at the beginning of the season during the first couple days, so might be a little bit to get to 8k, but I don't think it's going to be too hard. So anyways, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoy it. Bye.